You're listening to the Adventure Sports Podcast. We talk with adventurers from around the globe to bring you the inspiration and motivation you need to get started in the outdoors or to keep you moving if you're already there. Now here's your host, Kurt Linville.
Hi friends, I have an amazing guest with us today. I can already tell we just visited for about 5 minutes, and what a guy. Holy cow, what a guy. David Richman is our guest, and he's an endurance athlete. But more than that, he's also an author. He is a financial advisor as well. But he is self-described as a former sedentary overweight smoker who, let me read off some of his accomplishments here, 50 triathlons, more than 50 triathlons, more than 15 Ironman length, more than 50 marathons, several ultras, and he biked 4,700 probably plus miles in only 6 weeks, and that was to honor his sister who had died of cancer. As a result of that life experience and others, he has written 2 books, Cycle of Lives and Winning in the Middle of the Pack, and we're going to be talking about transformation today. It's one of my favorite subjects. This is going to be one of those episodes where if you know someone who needs some encouragement, then you're going to want to share it with them, because David's that kind of guy. So, and I don't even know what we're going to talk about yet. David, welcome to the program.
Well, thanks, Kurt. I appreciate that. We'll talk about a lot of stuff, but yeah, it's a real pleasure to be on your show, and I appreciate what you do, and thanks for having me.
Well, you have, checked an awful lot of boxes when it comes to endurance athletics, and I want to get into the full story of what got you started, but I guess I'm going to start with the hard question first. Why? Why put yourself through all of this? These are not easy things to do.
Yeah, well, I didn't know going into it, Kurt, why. I did not know. I developed that through doing more and going on this evolving path of discovering that why, that question why, and it's really been a wonderful journey, and I think it stems to the why stems to this kind of idea, and I think it resonates with some people, not with everybody, but I kind of grew up in a difficult household and had a difficult young adult life, and I found in retrospect, I didn't know it at the time, but I found in retrospect, Kurt, that I had grown up worrying about the effect that the things that I would do would have on others. You know, what could I do to not upset the parents? What could I do to make sure that as a kid I was in a safe space, right? What could I do to make sure that I could make my teachers happy or the boss happy because I couldn't afford to be fired? Like I did everything because I was wondering what effect would it have on others, and how could I be safe to navigate that, right? Because so I if I can keep them happy, then life's going to be safe. Life's going to be good, right? It's not going to turn ugly if people around me are happy. So, which is a, a lot of people can probably relate to that, but it's not the greatest way to wake up, which is, oh geez, I've been living my whole life trying to make other people happy. Well, I found myself, Kurt, in a position where I was finally able to take a look at the guy in the mirror and say, what's going to make you happy? And I didn't know the answer to that question. And we don't have to get into all of it, but that question was, I was able to ask myself that at a pretty low point in my life. And when I looked in the mirror, I said, geez, I have no idea what would make you happy. And so I went on a little path to discover what would, and that started with trying to become healthy, which led to doing activity, which led to saying, well, if I could do this, could I do more? And could I do more? And could I do more? And then, what are the limits of what I could do? And this was constantly just proving to myself that if I would do things for myself rather than for others, there's kind of no limits to what I could do. Do you know what I'm saying? And the intention, it was more true, and it was just more authentic and for me rather than for what effect it might have on others, if that makes sense.
So David, I want to highlight that because it contrasts with what I hear a lot. I hear a lot of people who start doing their sport, frankly, I'll just be really transparent here, hedonistically. Yeah. They're doing it only because they want to serve themselves and just for the heck of it and the fun of it. And then later they want to dig a little deeper and find some meaning, and they start doing it in a way that might have an impact on others. What you're saying is also very, very healthy. What you're saying is you were a people pleaser. You were living your life for everybody else. You were leaving yourself out of the equation. And I totally get that. There are a lot of people in this world who come from that perspective, and they're leaving themselves out of the equation to the point that it's injurious. It's kind of, I mean, it could be self-negligence. Who knows? You know, I'm not going to speak for people. But when you discover that being the best version of yourself equips you to be a better version of a human for the whole human race.
Yeah. And there's healthy ways, Kurt, that people are people pleasers, right? I mean, there's caretakers. There are people that are completely unselfish in caring for others, and they're doing it for really good reasons. I think I was an unhealthy people pleaser in that I kind of tiptoed. I had myself surrounded by people that I don't think were very healthy, and especially in a marriage, I was married to an abusive alcoholic. I had 4-year-old twins, and I think that stemmed from a childhood of wanting to be around, you know, those kind of people. And if I could live in that kind of tumultuous life and I could make the people around me happy, then all would be good. And it was just, I was a mess, right? I was a people pleaser, but a mess of a people pleaser. Right. And when I finally kind of got to a point where I could say, well, dude, you gotta worry about yourself, because if you don't get yourself good, what are you going to do with these kids? And how are you going to get them to a safe environment? Then I said, okay, well, you got to start dealing with the dude in the mirror and not everybody else. You know,
do you mind sharing about what your age was at that point?
Yeah, so I was 36 or 7 years old, and I remember, I'll tell you a quick story, Kurt. I remember that I was complaining to a friend, a good friend, again for the 100th time about the problems at home and the problems here and the problems there, and just the bad place that I was in. And he finally stood up and he was like, dude, I am so tired of hearing this, because you're the problem.
Right.
And I go, what are you talking about? I'm not the problem. You know, I'm the one holding it all together, and she does this and the work this and the boss that and whatever. He goes, dude, you are the problem. And I go, what are you talking about? And he said, let me tell you what your life is all about. And I go, what? And he goes, your life is you walk around the street and you find every wild animal that you can find. That's every problem. You find every wild animal you can. And then you go up, you cautiously, you pick it up, you take it home, you wash it, you feed it, you take care of it, you make sure it's safe and it looks good. And then you go to pet it and it bites you. And you wonder, like, why did it bite you? Dude, it's a wild animal. Of course, that's what it's going to do. Like, stop trying to change wild animals and figure out, why do you need to go find them? Stop trying to fix other people's problems. And why don't you find out why you always have to surround yourself with problems?
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa, holy cow. That really, I mean, it hit home. Like, I could be the problem. It just didn't even make sense to me.
Interesting. So somehow in this process, you turn to endurance sports.
Yeah.
And do you remember what that light bulb moment was when you said, you know what, this clicks for me?
I do. I do remember the light bulb moment, and it was not that night, but it was the next night after that. And my kids and I had 4-year-old twins. We had just gotten ourselves to safety. Got out of the household, and it was just me and the two of them. And I put them to bed. And I remember Kurt going into the bathroom and looking in the mirror and go, like, what is your problem? Like, who are you? What is your deal, dude? Like what the hell, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I just had this, and I'm not even exaggerating, Kurt. I had like a 2-hour stare down conversation with myself going,
so good.
Like, what's your problem? Like, here's the things that you should be proud of. Here's the things that you need to face. And, you know, that was also in the light of, I had just found out my sister was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, right? I just got out of this horrible situation. I just had a friend tell me I'm the problem. And it was just like, I could have been in denial, or I could have just said, maybe it's time for you to figure your stuff out. And so I just did. And I looked in the mirror and I was like, you got to find it out, man. You got to figure it out. You got to figure out what's your problem and how do you solve it? And I said, you know what? It starts with being healthy, I guess, because you've been unhealthy your whole life. Everything about you is unhealthy. Well, okay, I was successful. I just had friends. There were positive things, but at the root of everything was being unhealthy. I was overweight. I was a smoker. I didn't think well. I was a people pleaser. Like, you name it. And I just said, all right, you need to start exercising. So I grabbed a pair of shoes and I went for a run. I made it to about the end of the driveway, and and that was the start of it.
So you made it to the end of the driveway, and I applaud that. But here's the deal. I like the mirror exercise first.
Yeah.
I think that it's really easy to deceive ourselves. And sometimes we have to be honest with ourselves. And it's hard to look yourself in the eye sometimes in the mirror, because you have to be honest with that person that's staring back at you. And I think sometimes when we want to turn our lives around, that's the best way to start. I'm impressed by that description. I really am impressed by that description. And then to say I made it to about the end of the driveway, we often have to start really small.
Really small.
Yeah.
Really small. And because I didn't know, again, I had no framework for it, right? I was, and this sounds dramatic. Everybody has the things that they go through, and you never know what people go through. But I had spent a lot of my childhood and a lot of my young adulthood just figuring out how to survive, right? How to get to the next day. And sometimes that sounds dramatic, but sometimes it wasn't dramatic. It was really, sometimes I had to find out, how do I survive to the next day? So I didn't really have a framework for understanding like how to go on that path, or how to live a normal, healthy life. I was survival mode, even when I wasn't day-to-day surviving. And so that whole look in the mirror thing, just super quick, it was hard. It was really, really hard, because to be honest with yourself is really difficult.
Yeah.
It's really, really difficult. And in retrospect, I know that there was a second part of it, Kurt, that was equally as important. I had to forgive myself. I had to say, you've made so many mistakes, but you didn't know any better. And at the time, if you knew better, you would have done better. You would have made better choices. How did you know until you know? But now that you know, you've got to make a better choice. Now you know. So it was like this, oh, okay, if I could forgive myself for all the things I did wrong, or the things that I didn't do right, if I could just say, well, you didn't know then, but you do now. So don't not pay attention. Like be honest with yourself. You know now that you should quit smoking. You know now that you shouldn't, support an alcoholic. You know now that you should worry about yourself. You know now that you need to care about yourself. So start doing it. So when I said, okay, well, I can only make it to the driveway, then I was like, well, okay, well, if you're going to care about yourself and you're going to be honest, like, can you go more? Yeah. Okay. I ran down the block, and then I ran around the block, and then I ran a mile, and then I was like, I ran a mile. Who runs a mile? Like, wow, that's amazing. Right.
That's great.
I could run a mile. Like, what the hell? That's not even possible. And then I did a 5K and then a 10K, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I found out about this thing called triathlon, and I'm like, well, I was a swimmer as a kid. I bet I could swim, bike, and run. So I started to do a couple of triathlons, and then I read about this thing called an Ironman, and I'm like, whoa, could you imagine doing something that ridiculous? And I just kept going on and on and on, and saying, what is the limit of what you could do? Like, how cool is this that you never found your limit? Like, it gave me hope and optimism that bleeded into other parts of my life. Like, man, if you start caring about yourself, look what you could do.
Wow. So there had to be a point when you had found yourself successfully completing some really big endurance athletic achievements, right? You completed them, and you probably at some point looked back and said, holy cow, look where I am compared to where I was. Do you remember a moment like that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I have a lot of them. I'll tell you one of them because it hopefully would resonate with some people. because it's more than just the physical part of it. It's the mental part of it. And I had, let's see this. I want to frame this properly. So my sister was near the end of her journey with cancer. Okay.
Mm, yeah.
She was going to die soon, but leading up to, the timing of it was a Relay for Life. I don't know if anybody is aware of the American Cancer Society's Relay for Life. It's a great event. People put teams together. You go on a track for 24 hours. You raise money to support the people that you care about and to help out with causes related to the care of people going through cancer. And I had committed to my sister to run the whole 24 hours because she
Wow.
had committed to
Okay.
being there for the whole 24 hours. And so in preparing for that, I had to do a lot of running through the night and doing all of this or whatever. And Kurt, I remember one day I drove a couple of hours super early in the morning up to do a race that was a half Ironman. And I did the half Ironman, drove the few hours home, and then I said to myself, my sister's having a really tough time, and I promised her that I would run this whole 24 hours. I can't do it without training. So after I got home, I showered and I got dressed and I went to the track at the high school and I ran 10 miles like in the middle of the night.
Oof.
And I remember driving home going, dude, you literally couldn't run around the block. And now with the proper motivation and some understanding and some belief in yourself, you could have a day like that. Like that was pretty cool. And I didn't think I accomplished anything, but I just thought what I could go through, what I was capable of, what I could burden myself with was not a burden. It was just like, yeah, I could do it because I wanted to do it, right? Which is,
Yeah.
I didn't even have an awareness that somebody could do what I was doing. And again, it wasn't like an accomplishment, like pat myself on the back kind of thing. It was just, it was kind of cool. Like, wow, look at where I'm at.
I think it's fun when we maybe accomplish a big dream or maybe just do something we didn't expect that we could do and realize what people are capable of. And then realize that what transformed us is a story that can transform others.
Yeah.
And so whenever you're trying to encourage people now that they could transform their own lives, what do you tell them?
Yeah, I try not to be too preachy or prescriptive and telling people what they should or shouldn't do. I kind of encourage people to say, hey, why don't you just figure out what it is you could do? Because I had this vision in my head, Kurt. I know I didn't come up with this analogy, but I had a vision in my head this whole time of this. Let me tell you a super quick story. So imagine people that you have two 50-story buildings, okay, and
Yeah.
they're across the street from each other, and you put a ladder across, right, going from one 50-story building to the other, and you say, hey, why don't you walk across that ladder? And people would be like, oh, heck no, I'm not walking across that ladder. And then you go, well, I'll give you $1,000,000 if you walk across that ladder. Well, some people would take it, some people wouldn't, right? Well, now I'm going to make it windy and rainy and slippery.
Ugh.
Okay, for $1,000,000, no, there's no way I would do it. Okay, well, what would get you to go across? Well, what if your kid was tied to the middle of the ladder and you had to go walk across the ladder, untie your kid, and take your kid to the other side of the building? There's very few people that wouldn't find the motivation to go do that.
Right.
And so whatever it is, a 5K, eating healthier, going to run across the country, qualifying for the Olympics, whatever that baby is that's tied to the ladder, figure out what's going to get you to go get it and get it to the other side. Like, what's your motivation? What's the reason? What's causing you to have to go get it? What is that? And so for me, it was a thought of this being empowered to go, you know what, if nobody's looking and nobody cares, like, because they don't, which is fine, but really the only guy that matters is the guy in the mirror. Like, what could he do? What could he do? And so why don't you figure out what that is for you, and whatever it is, just figure out a way to get it done. Like, discover. And if you do it, you do it. If you don't, you don't, but at least you tried, right? And
Yeah.
so for me, that the end up story was, what is the thing that could push me further than anything else? And I still kind of haven't found that limit. I haven't always tested it. to the max, but I haven't really found it. I've run 50 miles, I've run 100 miles, I've done a 4,700-mile bike ride. I've done 50 miles with no training. I mean, I've done a ton of things that are ridiculous, but nothing that I feel is just like, okay, I've reached my limit. So that was kind of like that third part. Like the first part, Kurt, look in the mirror and go, can I be honest with myself? And then once you are, just forgive yourself and just say you didn't know what you didn't know. The third part is having the optimism to believe that whatever you want to go discover, you're going to like do it if it's for you, and you're doing it with a clean heart, and you're doing it with, the right motivation is just to find out what you're capable of. Then just keep doing it and be optimistic that you got the road ahead of you and you'll discover what it is. And so that's what I think meaningful transformation is just like being present, forgiving yourself that you weren't there before, and just going and finding out whatever it is.
Have you ever gone through all the hassles of getting on the plane, security, luggage, long waits at the airport, all that kind of stuff, and then when you finally arrive at your destination, not only are you worn out, but you also might feel a little bit disconnected? I know that I do when I hopscotch around the planet on a plane. That's one of the reasons why I love the great American road trips, where you get to drive from one place to another and connect all of those dots. You get to experience the changes in the terrain and the weather and the people and the communities. This is one reason that I am excited to present to you our new sponsor, Outdoorsy. Outdoorsy offers a different way to travel. With Outdoorsy, you can rent an RV or a camper and turn the drive into part of the vacation on your schedule with your people and with way more flexibility. Listen, most trips focus on getting somewhere. Outdoorsy is about the part in between. With Outdoorsy, you can rent an RV or a camper and travel on your own terms. No TSA lines, no strict schedules, no rushing through airports. And for extra convenience, Outdoorsy even offers RV delivery and setup in many locations, so you can enjoy the experience without having to worry about the logistics. Outdoorsy connects travelers with trusted RV owners across the country, making it easy to find a rig that fits your style and budget, and I might add, that also fits with the people and the pets that you want to take with you. So when you're ready for a trip that actually feels like a break, head to Outdoorsy.com. Outdoorsy is currently running a special promotion for listeners. Use the promo code ASP at checkout to take advantage of this limited time offer. That's Outdoorsy.com, promo code ASP. Let's talk about the 4,700-mile bike ride.
Yeah.
This was tied to your sister's battle with cancer, her journey through that. So can you just kind of set the stage for us, help us to understand?
Yeah, sure. I'll give you the idea real quick. It didn't happen quick, but when I was watching my sister go through her journey with cancer, I was touched by a common thread that I saw with people in the same position as her. And that was that they were able to deal with the tasks of their cancer. How do I go see a doctor? How do I eat healthier? How do I get more sleep? How do I navigate insurance? The kind of tasks they were forced to go learn, and they could navigate those. But when it came to the emotional side of it, how do you feel about dying? How are you able to talk to your kids or your parents? How do you feel about things? Boy, these are areas we don't talk about. And cancer especially can be very isolating because nobody knows what to say or what to do. Like, how are you going to ask somebody, how's your day going, when you know they got terminal cancer? Right? You'd rather just not ask them anything because, geez, I don't know what the heck to say. And they don't know what to say to you because they don't want to make you feel guilty, and they don't want to burden you with their problem. I mean, it can be, not for everybody, but it can be a very isolating place. And so I got this idea, Kurt, that I would find really compelling people that I could relate to. Not about cancer, but I could relate to their struggles with drug addiction or incarceration or abuse or difficulty, in their childhood, or, a violent upbringing or whatever. I could relate to those kind of traumas. And I got this idea of, well, if point A is when you encountered cancer, you were an 8-year-old on a field trip and you decided you wanted to go at the hospital, you saw people being cared for and you wanted to become a doctor, or when a grandparent got cancer, or a kid got cancer, or a friend, whenever you encountered cancer was point A.
Yeah.
Point B is today. So what's that cancer journey been like on the emotional side in relation to all the traumas that happened before? So
Yeah.
So if I could understand what you had been through in life, because everybody's gone through things you can't even imagine, Kurt. Every single person's gone through things you can't imagine. But if could have a little bit of insight into those things, then maybe it would allow me to be able to engage in a conversation with you about this traumatic thing called cancer. And it would make me unafraid to start those hard conversations. And so I gathered all these people. I found them through a number of different ways, and I interviewed them, Kurt, for a couple of years. And I got deep into the traumas of their childhood, their young adulthood, the difficulties that they had overcome in their life, either during cancer or pre-cancer or after cancer. And then I just said, hey, this emotional journey of cancer, how could we help you navigate that better? And what can we learn from the traumas? What can we learn from what your experience has been, so that we can be better armed when we have somebody at work tell us something, instead of turning away? Like, Kurt, how many times has somebody said to you, oh yeah, it's been a rough day. Oh, how are you doing? Good. I just found out my uncle has got cancer and it's not going to be good. And you go, oh geez, I'm really sorry. And you walk away because you don't know what to say. How do you say? What do you say? And I wanted to get some insight into how could we maybe start harder conversations to connect with people. So, long story, Kurt, but if I interviewed these people for a couple of years, then, and I feel like we're all connected by story and we're connected by emotion, that what better way to connect them than to go visit them for the first time? They were all around the country, by biking my way to go see them. So I zigzagged my way 4,700 miles around the country. I zigzagged it so that I could connect the stories, kind of like in those old timey movies, when the red line connects the plane wherever it goes.
Yeah, across the map. Yep.
Yeah. So I connected the stories and went to meet them. So I took 6 weeks to go 4,700 miles. And I visited almost all of the book participants, meeting them for the first time after having uncovered their stories over a couple of years worth of interviewing, and then came back and wrote the book.
Oh, that's a cool project, and what an impact! Holy cow! To help people to weather such a difficult season of life, to understand it better. I can't imagine, and the insights that you gained along the way. How much do you feel like you grew as an individual because of that?
Oh my God, are you kidding me? If I grew a scale of 0 to 100 in my life, if I've grown, 98 of it has happened since the time I put on that first pair of sneakers and tried to run down the driveway. Right, nice. 98 out of the 100 has happened since then, and I'll tell you, Kurt, like literally, I was on the bike for 12 hours a day, 43 out of 47 days, I was on the bike for 12 hours a day, about 120 miles a day. And there wasn't a single day where I didn't meet multiple people who would tell me a story like this. I'm in the lobby. I'm waiting to get out of a hotel to grab a bite to eat so I can go to bed, so I can wake up the next morning. And I'm in line, and somebody's there with their kid. Oh my gosh, they see me. They, well, you're on a bike. Yeah, I just biked from Dallas to here, whatever. Oh my God, that's like 100 miles. Yeah. Well, what are you doing? And I tell them what I'm doing it for. And then they would go, oh, wow. My son, one of his friends, the mom just got breast cancer. And I go, oh my God, how's she's doing? And she goes, I don't know. I don't know what to say to her. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Right. Or it's like, oh, I remember I showed up at one hotel and the lady came down and from the front desk and she goes, oh my God, I've been waiting for you. And I go, what? and she goes, "Oh, we read about your story and whatever." My grandfather's in the last stages of
Yeah.
of a fight with cancer. She goes, and I'm so happy to talk to you because I need to learn from you. Like, what do people do? Like, how do they deal with it? And I'm like, everybody's going through this.
Yes.
Everybody understands that idea of I don't know what to say. Or people that are going through cancer have gone through this of why is it so isolating? Why does everybody abandon me? Like when I need them to talk to me, nobody's around. And it's like, this was a very, very common theme, Kurt.
Mm. I think it's more common than it ought to be, but we
Yeah.
could come back to that. I want to throw something out there, and people can take it or leave it. I don't even know if it's the right way to look at life, but it's something I found useful. When we're thrust into a very difficult situation, and it might be cancer, it might be a lot of things that just feels like it throws us off the tracks, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're tempted to say, well, I wish life would get back to normal again. And we think that the hardship is not normal and that somehow we're in an abnormal state. And then we start asking, well, what did I do wrong? How is this my fault? Or, am I being punished for something? Or we go through all I think that maybe, for me anyway, David, it's more helpful to say, no, this is normal. Life is a mixture of challenges, wins, successes, losses, hard times, good times. And sometimes we're in a really good time during a really hard time and realize, no, that is
Totally
life.
agree. Yeah, I totally agree. And the perspective you asked a minute ago, how much have I learned during this process?
Yeah.
And when I was interviewing book participants to find out if they would have compelling enough stories, because I needed to find a wide range of emotional responses to trauma,
Yeah.
joy and fear and anger and all of this. And trust me, some people, the most difficult times of their lives were the best times of their lives because it opened their eyes to new paths and they grew from it or whatever. But Kurt, every single person that I spoke to, every single one said, my life's not that interesting and I don't know why we're talking. And meanwhile, they had these most ridiculously unbelievable stories, escape from Vietnam before the fall of Saigon. They were,
Wow.
they were kept prisoner by a boyfriend for 4 years in the basement and had to escape,
Holy cow.
people that had families abandon them that grew up to be a doctor. I'm like going, people that had survived the death of a child, and people would be like, my life's not that interesting, and yeah, I'm just living my life. And I'm just going, how in the world did you end up going through what you went through? And I was talking to one person, Patricia, and she gave me the best perspective that I think I could get, which exactly plays to what you just said, Kurt. This was a woman who, she's in the book, she made the book, who her story basically is she was severely abused in a relationship, had to escape this relationship, couldn't imagine how difficult her life was up until the time that she escaped. Once she did, she started living her life, and as an adult, Kurt, went through 5 different cancers.
Oh, man.
5 different cancers, all the way from stage 2 to 3. She's had everything removed that you could imagine. She's been through everything. And her story is not about cancer. Her story is really about how do you find love, because she fell in love with somebody after she got out of this abusive relationship. And right before she found cancer, how do you find love after coming from such trauma? And how does that love endure even through so much difficulty?
Right.
And I remember that she said to me, I said, how in the world do you do it, Patricia? Like, how do you do it? And she goes, well, David, she goes, I never really thought about it, but I guess I just get up in the morning, I put my feet on the ground and I go about my day. She goes, and sometimes my day puts me right back in the bed 2 minutes later because I don't have the energy to move. And sometimes my day takes me to spectacular places. She goes, but every day I just get up, I put my feet on the ground and I go about my day. She goes, hey, everybody has their time in the barrel, like being thrown over Niagara Falls in a barrel. Everybody has their time in the barrel. You just never know when yours is. And I'm just like, what an amazing perspective that you just go about living your day. You put your feet on the ground, you make your bed, and sometimes you got to fall back into it. And sometimes you go about and have a magical day. And what you said is exactly that. Like, if you can accept the fact that it isn't supposed to be great and that life isn't perfect and that even in the imperfections can teach us so much and give us so much framework for living our lives, it's like just embrace it all and just be present and forgive yourself what you didn't know then because you know it now, and then do your best and be optimistic and realize everybody's going through it. And I don't know, it sounds a little too Pollyanna about the viewpoint, but I think I just believe it to my core that everybody's going through things. And if you can just figure out a way to just be present and go about your day, great things can happen.
Absolutely. And I want to point out to people that when you end up with a life-changing event, you're going to go through a season of grief quite often. And you should look at the stages of grief if you're there, because what David just shared, you might be like, I am not there at all, David.
Yeah.
But it's because you're in a different stage of grief, and that's okay. But look at what the stages of grief are, and it helps you to say, okay, I'm feeling like this right now, but there's hope. I'm going to be somewhere else in a while, in a bit. And I think that when we all realize that life is absolutely a mixed bag, then it helps us to say, okay, I'm going to put my feet on the floor and live it then, because that's what it is. But I want to tap into your endurance sports in relation to this.
Mm-hmm.
I've said for a long time, and I know it's been true in my own life, and I've talked to people who agree, that doing the hard thing when you don't have to taught you so much about getting through the hard thing you can't avoid. And I really believe that testing ourselves on some level and finding out we're capable of far more than we knew can really empower us when life really just backs up the truck and dumps a nasty load right on top of us.
Mm-hmm.
Did your endurance sports help you to get through some of these difficulties like that?
Oh my gosh, it was what got me through the difficulties. It didn't help me get through it. It's what got me through it. Because, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, you either find yourself in or you put yourself in such a chaotic life that you don't take moments to reflect, and until you're forced to, maybe later in life, but you're going about such a frenzy of activity and chaos that you may be created or allowed to be created around you prevents you from having much self-reflection. And, you don't have time to change because you're just too busy. I don't have time to do this because I'm just too busy. Endurance athletics slows the clock, Kurt. It slows the clock. And I can tell you that some of the deepest, maybe all of the deepest thinking that I've done, all the deepest self-reflection that I've done has been during endurance athletics.
Right.
So try to do a 10-mile bike in the desert in 110-degree heat and not reflect on life. Try to, try to go climb a mountain and not reflect on life. It's impossible, because what happens is when you get immersed in endurance athletics, you're really only thinking about a few things. Like, how can I keep going? How do I feed my body? How do I deal with the elements? You're really focused in on the motion of getting to the next step or the next pedal or the next whatever. And it just starts to peel away all the nonsense, all the whatever. And you just get to contemplate sometimes nothing, which makes you start to discover things. Let me give you an example. Can I give you an example?
Okay. Yes, absolutely.
So I had signed up for a 50-mile run at the end of June in Las Vegas. And anybody that knows Las Vegas at the end of June, it's hot.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, it gets to like 120 degrees. So I'm running late to get to the start, Kurt, okay? And it's a small race, but I race to the start. I get in my car, I race to the start, and I'm like 7 or 8 minutes late. But it's okay. It's a 50-mile run in the heat. It's going to take me 12, 14 hours, at least 10 or 12 hours. So I park the car, I race to the check-in, and I realize I'm by far the last guy starting. I get to the start line, my chip, and then I go, and the first like quarter mile is uphill. Okay. And then you turn right onto a road, and there's a guy with a sign, and it says it's only 94 degrees. And I cursing that I'm like, it's late and you race like crazy, and I got to make the first quarter mile uphill, and then it's 95 degrees already, and who does this to? And I went, whoa, 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 wait a second, dude. Nobody's paying you to do this. Nobody told you to sign up, right? You did this on your own. Like, what the hell is your problem? You need to change your perspective. And this is what I said to myself. You got to change your perspective, dude. And then I go, well, how do you change your perspective? And then I said, oh, well, how you change your perspective is, and I started thinking about how movies are shot, and a director has a perspective on a movie, and the way that Alfred Hitchcock made movies versus the way that the Steven Spielberg make movies, and the perspective. And then I thought, when you're writing a book, you're first person or third person, and you're omniscient, and how do you change the perspective, and why would you have a different perspective? And then I go, oh, well, what even does the word perspective mean? And then I'm doing this whole conversation with myself, Kurt, and no joke, I'm not even kidding. 4.5 hours later, I get to the turnaround. I'm 25 and at 20, just under 25 miles away. And I get to the turnaround, and I went, oh my God, you literally have been pondering on the idea of perspective for 4.5 hours. You didn't even know that you were running. And I discovered all this like joy about how I could change my perspective. And I just got to look at things a different way. And I just grew from that. And I have drawn on that practice, that idea of being able to like really contemplate something at a deep level and having it apply to my life from that point beyond. So endurance athletics has really given me a ton. And that's just a simple example of, now every time I think about like, dude, you need to change your perspective or get a different viewpoint, or is this really the perspective you should have? Or are you being too quick to judge? Maybe you should think about it. I think about that and I go, oh, you need to maybe change your perspective. And I understand it now.
I love that.
Isn't that weird?
No, it's what's fun about it is that you got to the turnaround point. You've been doing this for 25 miles. It's like, oh, wow, I ran 25 miles and I learned so much.
Up and down hills in the heat. Didn't even think about the running. I didn't even think about the heat and the running and the water and the food and the feet. And I didn't even think about that. I just thought about how can I change my mindset and how much could I learn from. Now, when in your life, Kurt, when in anybody's life, are you going to take 4 hours to contemplate a subject that might rewire your brain in a positive way? We just never do that. Our lives are too chaotic.
No. I mean, if you sat down in the easy chair and said, okay, I'm going to think for 4.5 hours on this.
Impossible.
You wouldn't do it. You have to, okay, your body has to be doing something hard enough to distract you into being able to focus. I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's not ridiculous because I've been doing these interviews forever, and people, they're constantly talking about the flow state or being in the zone or, why do you do this? Well, I love where it takes me, that I hear that language all the time, David. It works. And that's what you described so beautifully. But okay, so here's the question then. Let's say that somebody's listening to this right now. They're going through some tough stuff. They realize, man, I have not done any time in the mirror, right? Mm-hmm. And they're thinking, I wonder if I should try to do a hard thing. What ideas do you have for them? How do you get started?
Yeah. I don't know if it works for everybody, but I know that what worked for me was not figuratively, but literally staring at myself in the mirror. If you could just, or write it out and read it out loud, do something that is reflective in nature. I do a lot of writing courses where I teach people how to do self-care through writing. It's called expressive writing. And cool. And when they do this writing, I say, can you read it out loud? Do you have the guts to read it out loud to yourself in front of a mirror? Because when you discover the difference between the inside brain, what you're telling yourself subconsciously, and what you consciously can tell yourself, the two are generally very far apart. And so for me to stand in front of the mirror and go, what is your deal? Like, who are you? What kind of decisions are you making? Like to do that, not to figuratively do it, but to actually do it, really tested myself and went like, geez, man, wow, I got to start to face some stuff. So if you write it out and read it to yourself, if you say it out loud, if you even have the guts to say it to somebody else, I think that starts the journey.
Wow. I have done that exercise. Matter of fact, it's in my book. I have a chapter on it in my book. I really believe in it. But I've had the experience of looking in the mirror and not recognizing the person staring back at me. It's like, who is that? And then you start talking to that person and you see yourself talking back, and you go, that's me. What? It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah. And look, the truth is you don't know this until you know it. But at some point you realize that you've been here for a long time. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't have to say I was like I'm looking in the rearview mirror. I've been here for a long time. But you start to realize that time is actually relative. And like I've been here for a while. So if that's the truth, what could I do from this point forward?
Yeah.
Like, what could I do? If I took a conscious effort, what could I do?
Boy, that's the transformation right there. That is, wow. I'm looking for the fancy word, David, but that's the beginning. It's the genesis. It's the aha moment. It's the spark. It's the light bulb. It's bigger than all of that combined. And that's the hard part. We're talking about something that's almost ineffable here. But when you reach way down deep inside and you find an anchor that you can grab hold of, a motivation that'll get you out the door, a realization that there is a thing about, like, there is truth in my own life and I'm going to have to live it now. There's so much to that. And it's cool that you used adventure sports, endurance sports, as part of that journey. So the book, I think we've been dancing around this book, this whole conversation, but that book is Cycle of Lives.
Yeah.
Right? So if people want to learn more about this, that Cycle of Lives is what that's about. Your other book is Winning in the Middle of the Pack. Now, we got to talk about that too, because people say, if I'm in the middle of the pack, I'm not the winner. What do you mean?
Yeah. And that's a really cool thing. Let me tell you a story of how that happened. Okay.
Okay.
So I told you in the beginning that I ran around the block, then I ran a mile, then I did a 5K, and then I found this thing called triathlon, and then an Ironman. And I said, well, if I'm going to do an Ironman, I better do a half Ironman first, right?
Yeah.
So half Ironman, it's a 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike, and then a half marathon. And I had never done any of this, okay? And I'm still at the point where I don't even have a framework for understanding what is endurance athletics and what am I capable of and who am I or whatever. I drive to this event, and it's a wave start, which means it's not a mass start. Not everybody's starting at the same time. It's a wave start. So they send you off depending on your age groups. And I could see it as vividly as it happened yesterday, Kurt, is I get, it's in a river, and I'm at the top of the river looking down at the river, watching the first few waves take off. And literally, Kurt, everybody that's in the water waiting for the start is like cut out of marble. They're all Greek god and goddesses. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, these are real athletes. What am I doing here? Like, they're all in their Speedos and they got no fat, and they're all wind blowing in the hair blowing in the wind, and they're like, they got this, and they're athletes. And I'm going, what the hell are you even doing here? Right? And I was ready to get myself out of there. I just said, dude, you got to go home. Like, you don't belong in this group of people. This is stupid. This is ridiculous. Like, who even are you? Right? And then the gun goes off, and I turn back around because I was already walking back to my car. I'm going home. Right? The gun goes off, and I turn around, and okay, about like 90% of the Greek god and goddesses go, running to the river, dive in the river and go swim. But you know what? Like, a few of these Greek god and goddesses, they started wading in the water and doing the breaststroke. And one guy was flipping on his back doing the backstroke because he didn't know how to swim. And somebody else was swimming in circles. And I went, oh my God, like what the heck? what is going on here? And I go, you know what? They're not there to impress anybody. They're just doing the best that they can do.
Yeah.
Like, what is that dude doing swimming on his back? And this other person that's walking along the side of the river because he's afraid to jump in. And I'm like, well, wait a second. If they're just doing the best they can do, and they don't care about what anybody thinks about them, they're just trying to overcome whatever it is they're trying to overcome to do what
Yeah.
they do. Then why do you think anybody's looking at you? Like, why don't you just go out there and do the best you could do? And so it just hit me like I'm gonna finish somewhere. I don't know where. I'm gonna maybe I'll finish the last person. I'm certainly not gonna finish first. Maybe I'll finish last, probably not, but I'm gonna finish somewhere. And who cares where? Because nobody cares. Nobody's watching me. They're just doing their own thing. So if I am good with the fact that nobody's watching me, then I'm the only one that cares. And if I do the best that I could do, if I do even what I hope to do, even if I wasn't successful, but I gave it a good effort, like, isn't that winning? Like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna finish in the middle of the pack. Shouldn't I just worry about the guy in the mirror and not everybody else? Because nobody else cares about what everybody else is thinking about. Why do I think? And that was probably left over from that childhood of like trying to worry about what other people think and
Yeah. Yeah.
making
Yeah.
them happy. Why don't I just like win for myself? So that was that winning in the middle of the pack. So I wrote that book where each chapter is like a chapter about business, life, and endurance athletics because there's a lot of similarities in running $100 million business and running 100 miles. Right? There's a lot.
Mm.
So I just said this winning in the middle of the pack mindset, which is like kind of what can I accomplish when nobody's watching and nobody cares, but I'm the one that's caring and I'm the one that's watching.
I love it. Man, I'm going to have to read that one. That one struck a chord with me, and I believe it too so much. The comparison game doesn't work. It doesn't work, David. I mean, even I remember one of my kids is super, super competitive, and he would always beat himself up if he didn't win something,
Yeah.
you know? And I said, you got to stop the comparison game because even if you become the world record holding athlete in an event, it's only going to last for a few months and someone's going to beat it. You know,
Yeah.
you can only be on the top for a short period of time. What matters so much more than that is doing things that you find meaningful and rewarding for yourself,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
being able to share that in a positive way, I think, with others.
Yeah, I remember. It's so true. Let me tell you another quick story. So I qualified for the Hawaii Ironman World Championship. Okay, but I had to get a qualifying race out of the way, which was a half Ironman, just to be able to do the full Ironman. You know, in
Wow.
Hawaii, you got to stay qualified. But I had a broken foot.
Oh,
And if I didn't do the race, I wasn't going to be able to do Hawaii, later in the year. So I decided to do this half Ironman with a broken foot. So how do you do a half Ironman with a broken foot? Well,
I have no
you
idea.
don't need your foot to swim really. I put on the boot, get to the transition. You don't really need a foot to bike because it's stable. So I'm not really hurting it. But during the run, you need your foot, right? So I put on this boot, okay, and I have to walk the half marathon, but I got to walk it really fast because I got to finish, right? And
We're talking
so
about 13 miles of walking
13
with a
miles.
boot with a
Yeah.
broken foot.
As fast as I could. And people were laughing at me, people were saying, get off the course, there's a race going on. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm in the race. They're like, no. I'm like, but I remember one time, like I'm like 9 or 10 miles into the run, right? For me to walk. And I start passing these four teenagers. They must have been early 20s, high teens. They're doing the race. And they had got to the point where they were all quitting.
Yeah.
So they were all walking. And I walk by him and I hear this one kid go, "Oh man, an old guy in a boot just passed us. Come on, guys, let's get running." And I thought that was so cool that right. I motivated them to go do their thing, but I was just trying to do my thing, and they were just doing
Yes.
their thing. And it's like, yeah, don't compare yourself to. I know they compared themselves to me, like some old guy in a boot is going to get there faster than them, right?
Right.
And comparing doesn't matter, but it can motivate you.
Right.
Right. It can spark you to go, oh, what about me? Not what about them, but it can give you some perspective. And oh my God, a million of those fun stories.
So fun, so good. That's a good place to wrap it up, I think. We could talk for hours, David. There's so much here. Maybe the key is to get your book so people can extend this conversation at least that way.
Well, thank you.
How can people get in touch with you?
Sure. Well, thank you. And the Cycle of Lives book, because of the subject matter and everything, I had each one of the participants pick a cancer-related charity that they wanted to support. So any money that comes in off of that book gets donated to charity 100%. So it's just Cycle of Lives. You can go to cycleoflives.org. Of course, books are available on Amazon. The Cycle of Lives is an Audible as well. So if you like audiobooks, it's a great audiobook. I had 15 different actors do each one of the 15 different stories. So it's really a very cool listen if you're into it. It's Cycle of Lives, and it's every story is dealing with a heavy topic, but every story's got an optimistic spin on it. It's not a book that will bring you down. It will enlighten you and bring you up for sure.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, so Cycle of Lives, Amazon, Instagram, you have David Richman _ Cycle of Lives. That's Instagram.
Yeah, and look, everybody's got busy lives. I say if you got the time to read a book or listen to a book, I appreciate it. It'd be impossible for you not to grab a nugget that will speak to you. And when that nugget speaks to you about somebody's life, it might empower you to start a hard conversation. So those are good motivations to read it.
You also have a website.
I do, cycleoflives.org, where it talks about, I do some public speaking and I do transformational workshops with expressive writing and those type of things.
Okay. Well, man, David, thank you so much for your time today. Heartfelt, instructive, transformative. I love your story. And you know what? I love it that you're telling your story.
Well, I only can because of you, right? So thank you for doing what you're doing.
Well, it's beautiful that you're sharing it because other people can relate. It's like seeing the old guy in a boot go by, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I could do something too,
Right. Yeah.
So I love that. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Kurt.
You bet. And everyone, hey, maybe you're trying to find your thing. Maybe you're trying to start. Maybe it means you need to look in the mirror. Whatever it is, it's worth it. Get out there and have some fun.